I watched the man I loved try to erase my dead husband from my son's memory. It started with bedtime stories, Michael's voice replacing David's, new tales about brave boys who didn't need to look backward. Then came the photos, David's face slowly disappearing from frames, from the refrigerator, from Eli's nightstand. "Where's Daddy's picture?" my 8-year-old asked one morning. "Which Daddy?" Michael replied gently. And that's when I knew. Michael hadn't fallen in love with a widow and her son. He'd fallen in love with the idea of replacing what we'd lost. By the time I realized what was happening, Eli barely remembered the sound of his real father's laugh. The way David used to make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. The lullabies that once chased away nightmares. Michael had stolen more than our hearts. He'd stolen our history. And I'd handed him the keys to do it, because I was so desperate to feel whole again. But some things aren't meant to be replaced. Some people aren't meant to be forgotten. And some love isn't love at all. Subscribe to Whispers of Revenge for stories that haunt long after they end. David died on a Tuesday morning in March. Heart attack at 32, no warning, no goodbye, just gone. One moment I was making coffee, listening to him sing off-key in the shower. The next I was calling 911, watching paramedics work on my husband's body in our bedroom doorway. Eli was 3, too young to understand why Daddy wouldn't wake up, too young to understand forever. "When is Daddy coming home?" he asked every day for months. I didn't know how to answer, so I kept David's presence alive everywhere. His coffee cup stayed on the counter. His side of the bed remained untouched. His reading glasses sat folded on the nightstand, waiting for eyes that would never open again. Eli would climb into David's chair every morning. "Good morning, Daddy," he'd whisper to the framed photo on the side table. "I love you." I thought I was helping him remember. I thought I was keeping David alive for both of us. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was keeping us both trapped in amber. The grief support group was my therapist's idea. "You need to be around people who understand," she said. "Eli needs to see you healing." That's where I met Michael, soft-spoken, patient, devastatingly kind. He'd lost his 7-year-old son in a drowning accident 2 years earlier. His marriage hadn't survived the loss. He understood the weight of empty rooms, the silence where laughter used to live. "Grief doesn't follow rules," he said during our first coffee date. "But it doesn't have to be permanent." He was gentle with my broken edges, never pushed, never demanded. When I introduced him to Eli after 6 months, he brought a small toy truck. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed, "New Daddy." "I'm not trying to replace anyone," he told me privately. "I just want to be part of your lives." Eli liked him immediately. Michael taught him to throw a football, something David had planned to do but never got the chance. He helped with bedtime when I was too exhausted to function. He made us laugh again. Slowly our house felt less like a mausoleum, less haunted. When Michael moved in after 18 months, Eli was excited. "Does this mean Michael's staying forever?" he asked. "He's someone who loves us very much," I said. "Just like Daddy did." I should have noticed how Michael's smile tightened when I said David's name. I should have paid attention to the way conversations shifted whenever Eli brought up memories of his father. I should have seen the signs, but I was so grateful to feel normal again, so relieved to have help carrying the weight of single motherhood, so desperate to believe we could be a family again. I missed the most important thing. Michael wasn't joining our story. He was rewriting it. The changes began like gentle improvements, so subtle I mistook them for love. Michael suggested we update Eli's room. "He's growing up," he said, running his fingers through my hair. "Maybe it's time for a more mature space." Down came the handprint art David and Eli had made together, the finger paintings from their Saturday morning projects. The growth chart David had started when Eli turned 2, marking each precious inch with the date and a smiley face. "We can keep them in a memory box," Michael said softly. "But a growing boy needs room to dream forward, not backward." Up went new posters, sports themes, Michael's favourite teams, not the ones David had cheered for. Michael bought Eli new clothes during a shopping trip I couldn't join. Work emergency at the clinic where I was a nurse. "He's outgrowing everything," he explained, bags full of fresh outfits scattered across our bed. But David's old t-shirts, the ones Eli loved to sleep in because they smelled like Daddy, vanished from the laundry rotation. "Where's my Daddy shirt?" Eli asked one evening, searching through his dresser. "You're getting too big for old clothes, buddy," Michael said, kneeling to Eli's eye level. "Big boys wear big boy clothes." The logic was sound, loving even, but something in my chest felt hollow. Michael started handling bedtime routines. "You work such long shifts," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "Let me help with the heavy lifting." David's bedtime stories, the ones I'd been telling Eli since he was born, the ones David had started, were replaced. New adventures, tales about brave boys who looked ahead, not behind. Stories where fathers were heroes who stayed, not memories that faded. "Why don't we read about Daddy anymore?" Eli asked me one night when I tucked him in. "We can talk about Daddy any time you want," I said. But Michael was always there, always listening, always steering conversations toward the present. "Tell me about your day at school," he'd say, redirecting Eli's attention. "Did you have fun at recess?" Michael enrolled Eli in Little League without asking me first. David had been a soccer player. We'd talked about coaching Eli's team someday, but Michael insisted baseball built better character. "Every boy needs a sport," he said when I questioned the decision. "Something to make him strong and confident." At games, other parents started calling Michael Eli's dad. He never corrected them. When I tried to, he'd smile and say, "It's easier than explaining the whole situation every time." But it wasn't easier for me, and I could see confusion growing in Eli's eyes, the way he'd look between Michael and David's photo, trying to understand how two men could occupy the same space in his heart. Michael began attending school events I used to handle alone, father-son activities, career day presentations, science fair judging. "You don't have to do all that," I told him. "I can manage." "I want to," he said, pulling me close. "Eli needs a strong male presence, and you need support." David had signed up to volunteer at Eli's preschool the week before he died. They'd planned to build a birdhouse together for the spring fundraiser. Now Eli built projects with Michael, came home with stories about woodworking and proper tool safety and learning to work like a man. "Did you have fun?" I'd ask. "Yeah," Eli would say, but something in his voice was different, smaller. Michael started calling Eli son, not his name, not buddy, son. "Come here, son. Good job, son. I'm proud of you, son." And slowly, heartbreakingly, Eli started responding to it, started accepting it as natural. The breaking point came during a school project about family heritage. Eli came home with a worksheet. Under father, he'd written Michael Thompson. My world tilted. "What about Daddy David?" I asked gently, sitting beside him at the kitchen table. Eli looked confused, genuinely confused. Michael said family is who takes care of you now. That night I found David's photo, the one Eli used to talk to every morning, face down in his desk drawer, buried under baseball cards and homework sheets. "Why is Daddy's picture here?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "Michael said it's not healthy to talk to pictures," Eli said, not meeting my eyes. "He said I should focus on real people who are here." I felt something shatter inside my chest. Not break cleanly, shatter into 1,000 sharp pieces. Michael wasn't just changing our present. He was erasing our past, and the most terrifying part, Eli was letting him. I started watching, really watching. Michael had perfected the art of interruption. Never harsh, never obvious, just redirecting. "Remember when Daddy David taught me to make pancakes?" Eli would start during breakfast. "Speaking of pancakes," Michael would smoothly interject, "we should try that new recipe I found, the one with blueberries." The conversation would shift. David's memory would dissolve. Another piece of our history, quietly discarded. I found David's wedding ring in the back of my jewellery box. I'd kept it on the dresser since he died, not wearing it, but seeing it every day. A small comfort. When I asked Michael about it, he looked genuinely surprised. "I thought you'd moved it," he said. "You seemed upset whenever you saw it there." Had I said that? I couldn't remember. Maybe I had mentioned how hard it was to see David's things everywhere, but I hadn't meant for them to disappear. Michael started fielding Eli's school calls. "I handle the day-to-day coordination," he explained when I questioned it. "You're juggling enough with your nursing shifts, parent-teacher conferences, doctor appointments, permission slips, all managed by Michael while I was at work." "How did Eli's checkup go?" I'd ask after his appointments. "Perfect, growing like a weed. Dr. Harrison says he's developing beautifully." But when had we switched to Dr. Harrison? Eli had seen Dr. Chen since birth. She'd delivered him, knew his complete medical history, understood his fear of needles and how to calm him down. "Why aren't we seeing Dr. Chen anymore?" I asked. "Dr. Harrison is closer to my office," Michael said. "Makes scheduling around my work easier." I called Dr. Chen's office the next day. According to their records, Eli hadn't been seen in 8 months. "We received transfer requests," the receptionist said, "but we never heard back from you about forwarding his files." I'd never requested any transfers. That evening, while Michael was giving Eli a bath, I searched his home office. I told myself I was looking for insurance papers. I told myself I had every right to know about my son's medical care. What I found made my blood freeze. A folder labelled Eli Martinez, New Patient Registration, Dr. Harrison's office, Michael listed as father, primary emergency contact, authorised for all medical decisions. My name appeared nowhere on the forms. I confronted him after Eli went to sleep. "Why am I not listed on Eli's medical forms?" Michael looked tired, disappointed, like I was being unreasonable about something trivial. "Laura, you've been overwhelmed with work and grief. I was trying to streamline things. I can add you to everything if it makes you feel better." "It's not about making me feel better. He's my son." "Of course he is." Michael's voice was patient, loving. "But he's become like my son too. Isn't that what we want? A real family?" The way he said it made me feel selfish, like I was being possessive instead of protective. I started observing Eli more carefully, the way he moved through our house, how he interacted with David's remaining belongings. He'd completely stopped talking to David's photo. When I asked him about it, he shrugged. "Michael says talking to dead people is weird." "Daddy David isn't just dead people. He's your father." Eli's face scrunched with confusion. "But Michael's my dad now." "Michael is someone who loves you very much, but David is your daddy, your first daddy, your real daddy. Michael says real dads are the ones who stay." That hollow feeling in my chest spread like ice water. The following weekend, I suggested visiting David's grave. We used to go monthly. Eli would bring drawings, tell David about school, leave wildflowers we'd picked together. "I don't want to," Eli said, not looking up from his cereal. "Why not, sweetheart?" "It makes me sad. Michael says I don't have to do things that make me sad anymore." Michael was reading the newspaper at the kitchen table. He'd heard every word. "I just want him to be happy," he said later when I confronted him privately. "He's been carrying this grief for so long. Maybe it's time to let him heal." He's not grieving, he's remembering. Is there really a difference at his age? Yes, I wanted to scream. There's a huge difference. Grief is pain that fades. Memory is love that lasts. But Michael made it sound like I was hurting Eli by keeping David alive, like I was being selfish, like I was the problem. I started finding David's belongings in strange places. His cologne moved from the bathroom counter to the back of the medicine cabinet. His favourite book relocated from the nightstand to a box in the closet. His coffee mug buried behind other dishes. "Did you move these?" I asked Michael. "Just organising," he said. "Making space for our life together." Making space by erasing David. The final straw came during Eli's school play. He was playing a tree in their environmental awareness production. David would have been in the front row with his phone, recording everything, cheering too loudly and embarrassing Eli in the most loving way. I saved Michael a seat. When he arrived, he immediately took my phone. "You're not getting a good angle," he said. "Here, let me handle the recording." But he wasn't just helping, he was taking over. Again. After the performance, Eli ran toward us, face glowing with excitement. "Did you see me sway in the wind? Did I do good?" "You were absolutely perfect," I said, hugging him tight. "Dad, did you see the part where I dropped my leaves?" "Dad, not Michael, Dad." Michael beamed. "I saw everything, son. You were incredible up there." Later, driving home, I tried to bring up David. "Daddy David would have loved watching you tonight." Eli was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a small voice, "Who's Daddy David?" The car swerved slightly as my hands shook on the steering wheel. "What do you mean, who's Daddy David?" I can't remember him very much anymore." Michael caught my eyes in the rearview mirror. His expression was unreadable. That night, after Eli fell asleep, I pulled out photo albums. Pictures of David holding newborn Eli. David teaching him to walk. David reading bedtime stories with silly voices. "Look," I said the next morning, showing Eli the photos. "This is Daddy David, your first father, the one who loved you before anyone else." Eli studied the pictures like he was looking at strangers. "He looks nice," he said politely, "but I already have a dad." And that's when I understood what Michael had done. He hadn't just entered our lives. He'd systematically replaced David in them, one memory at a time. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of deleted text messages, photos of David's belongings before they disappeared, documentation of every subtle manipulation. I found more proof of Michael's systematic takeover, a new life insurance policy listing him as Eli's guardian, school emergency forms with only his contact information, a savings account he'd opened for Eli's future with himself as the sole trustee. He was legally erasing me as Eli's mother, and I'd been so grateful for his help, I'd signed half the paperwork myself. The confrontation happened on a Thursday night. Eli was at my sister's house for a sleepover. Michael was in his office, working on his laptop like everything was normal. "We need to talk," I said from the doorway. He looked up with that patient smile I'd once found comforting. Now it made my skin crawl. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" "You're erasing David." Michael closed his laptop slowly. "Laura, we've discussed this. I'm not erasing anyone. I'm helping Eli move forward instead of living in the past." By making him forget his father? By helping him accept reality? His voice remained calm, reasonable. "David is gone. I'm here. Eli needs consistency, not confusion." The casual way he said it, like David was just an inconvenience to be managed, made my hands shake. David is his father. You're not. Something flickered across Michael's face, something cold and calculating. "Biology isn't everything, Laura. Fatherhood is about presence, commitment, showing up every single day. David would have shown up if he could have, but he couldn't, and he can't, and Eli deserves better than living in the shadow of a dead man. The words hit like a physical blow. A dead man? That's what you call my husband? My son's father? Michael stood up, and suddenly the room felt smaller. He seemed taller, more imposing than I'd ever noticed. Your son barely remembers him anymore. Do you know why? Because I've been the one reading bedtime stories. I've been the one at baseball games. I've been the one teaching him how to be strong. You've been manipulating him. I've been raising him. His mask was slipping now, revealing something harder underneath. While you've been clinging to ghosts, I've been building a real relationship with that boy. By lying to him, by making him forget, by helping him heal. Michael's voice cracked like a whip. Do you have any idea what it was like when I met you? Eli was a mess, talking to photographs, crying for a father who would never come home. You were both drowning in grief. I stared at this stranger wearing Michael's face. So you decided to fix us. I decided to save you, both of you, even when it meant competing with a dead man for my own family's attention. We're not your family. The words hung between us like a challenge. Michael's expression went completely still. Yes, he said quietly, you are. That's when I saw it clearly, the truth I'd been blind to. This wasn't about love, this wasn't about helping us heal. This was about replacement. You lost your son, I said slowly. So you decided to take mine. Michael's jaw tightened. I didn't take anything, I was given a gift, a second chance at being a father. And I wasn't going to let your inability to let go ruin it. Where are David's things? His real things, not just what you moved, what you threw away. Michael didn't answer immediately. Where are they, Michael? Gone. His voice was flat, emotionless. Donated, discarded, put where they belong, in the past. You had no right. I had every right, he exploded, his careful composure finally shattering. I live in this house. I pay bills. I love that child. David is dead, Laura. Dead and buried and rotting in the ground. But I'm here. I'm real. I'm the one Eli calls Dad now. Because you manipulated him into it. Because I earned it. Then he told me everything, all of it. How he'd gradually replaced David's bedtime stories with his own adventures. How he'd convinced Eli that talking to photographs was babyish behaviour. How he'd systematically disposed of David's belongings when I was working night shifts. How he'd changed doctors specifically to get medical forms without my signature. How he'd been building a legal case for custody, documenting every moment I seemed unstable or unable to cope. You've been planning this from the beginning, I whispered. I've been protecting this family, our family, from your obsession with the past. By stealing my son's identity, by giving him a better one. Michael moved closer, and for the first time since I'd known him, I felt genuinely afraid. Eli doesn't need David anymore, Laura. He has me. And if you can't accept that, if you keep trying to drag him backward into your grief, then maybe you're not what's best for him either. The threat was crystal clear. You can't take him from me, Michael smiled. That same gentle smile that had made me fall in love with him. But now it looked predatory. I already have. That's when we heard the front door open. Eli, home early from his sleepover. Mom! Dad! I'm back! Dad. Not Michael. Dad. Michael's smile widened as he looked toward the hallway. Welcome home, son. And as I watched my 8-year-old boy run into the arms of the man who'd stolen his memories, I realized how completely, utterly trapped I was. The man I'd loved, the man I'd trusted with my broken family, had been systematically erasing my husband from my son's mind. and he'd almost finished the job. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in David's old reading chair, one of the few things Michael hadn't reorganized, and planned my next move. The next morning, while Michael was at work and Eli was at school, I drove to David's sister's house. Sarah had been distant since Michael moved in. I'd thought she was just struggling to accept our new relationship. Now I understood. "He's trying to erase David," I told her, my voice breaking. Sarah nodded grimly. "I've been waiting for you to see it." She'd been watching from the sidelines, noticing, hoping I'd wake up before it was too late. "Eli barely remembers his father," I whispered. "But we do," Sarah said firmly, "and deep down, so does he." She disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a box I didn't recognize. Inside were treasures I thought were lost forever. David's favorite sweater, the one Eli used to curl up in when he missed his daddy. Photos Michael had claimed were misplaced. A video of David singing Eli to sleep when he was 2. "I started saving things," Sarah explained. "When items began disappearing from your house, I took what I could, just in case." That afternoon I picked Eli up from school early. We drove to the park where David used to take him, the one with the duck pond and the old oak tree, perfect for climbing. "Do you remember coming here with Daddy David?" I asked gently. Eli was quiet for a long time, staring at the water. Then, barely audible, "A little bit." I showed him the video on my phone. David's voice, soft and loving, singing the lullaby he'd made up just for Eli. A song about brave little boys and fathers who loved them even from far away. Eli's face changed. Something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I remember that song," he whispered, tears starting to fall. "That's your daddy, your first daddy. He loved you more than all the stars in the sky." Michael said I shouldn't think about him anymore. Michael was wrong, sweetheart. It's not only okay to love people who aren't here, it's beautiful. It means they mattered. It means they're still part of us. Eli cried then, deep, shaking sobs like he'd been holding them in for months. "I forgot him, Mommy," he sobbed. "I forgot Daddy David." "You didn't forget, baby. Someone just told you it was wrong to remember. But remembering is how we keep people alive in our hearts." That evening I told Michael he was leaving. Eli was in his room, looking through the photos Sarah had saved. "You need to pack your things," I said. It wasn't a request. Michael's face went cold. "No, I'm not going anywhere." "Yes, you are. Tonight." "Laura, think about what's best for Eli. He needs stability. He needs his mother and his father's memory, both of which you've been trying to steal. I've been trying to build a future by destroying our past." Michael looked toward Eli's room, where we could hear soft voices. Eli talking to David's photo again. "You're going to confuse him," Michael said. "Undo all the progress we've made." "We didn't make progress. You made erasure." Michael packed that night. Not everything. He'd accumulated too much over 2 years. But enough. At the door, he turned back one last time. "You're making a mistake," he said. "That boy needs a father figure. He has one. He's just not here in the way we can see. I could have been here forever. Not if it meant David couldn't be here too." After Michael left, the house felt empty again. But this time it was a different kind of empty, not haunted by absence, just quiet with possibility. Eli and I spent the following weeks rebuilding what Michael had dismantled. We put David's photo back on the nightstand. We visited his grave and planted new flowers. We read bedtime stories in David's silly voices, remembered together. Slowly, carefully, Eli's memories returned. Not all of them, some were lost forever. But enough. "I'm sorry I forgot Daddy David," he said one night as I tucked him in. "You didn't forget, sweetheart. You were just told to stop remembering. That's very different." Will you help me remember more about him? Every single day for as long as you want. 4 months later, Eli made a new family tree for school. Under Father, he wrote David Martinez in heaven, and Michael used to live with us. Under Mother, he wrote Mom loves me always. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't traditional, but it was honest. And honesty, I learned, is stronger than manipulation, even when manipulation wears the gentle mask of love. 8 months later, I received a message from a woman named Jennifer. She'd found my story shared in a single mother's support group online. I think my boyfriend is doing the same thing, she wrote. My daughter stopped talking about her dad who died in Afghanistan. She used to draw pictures of him every day. Now she acts like he never existed. How did you know for sure it wasn't just natural healing? I spent 2 hours on the phone with her that night, recognizing every detail she described, the gentle redirections, the helpful changes that felt wrong, the way her 5-year-old had stopped asking about Daddy's medals and started calling her boyfriend Papa. Trust that feeling in your gut, I told her. If something feels like erasure instead of healing, it probably is. That conversation opened my eyes. Michael wasn't unique. This pattern happens more often than we want to acknowledge. Predators who target grieving families, who see our brokenness as an opportunity to build their perfect replacement family. They don't steal our children with violence. They steal them with patience, with kindness, with the promise of healing we desperately want to believe in. And we let them, because we're so desperate to feel whole again, so grateful for help that we don't recognize control. So here's what I need every parent to understand. Love doesn't require erasure. Real love makes space for your history. It honors your losses. It helps you carry your grief, not discard it. If someone in your life is asking you to choose between them and your memories, they're not offering love. They're offering ownership. If they're helping by making decisions without consulting you, changing your child's routines without discussion, or slowly isolating your family from your past, pay attention to that discomfort. If your children are forgetting people they used to love, if their stories about the past are changing, if they seem like different versions of themselves, trust your instincts. The signs aren't always dramatic. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who seem the most helpful, the most understanding, the most willing to rescue you from your pain. So I'm asking you directly, have you ever let someone stay in your life just because they made you feel needed? Have you ever confused someone's control for their care, their possessiveness for their protection? Share your story in the comments below. Not for entertainment, for awareness. Because someone reading this might be living through it right now. Someone might be watching their child slowly forget a parent who died. Someone might be losing pieces of their family's identity and calling it progress. If that's you, listen to me. You're not being dramatic. You're not ungrateful for questioning help that feels wrong. And you're absolutely not alone. Your memories matter. Your history matters. Your right to decide what stays and what goes in your own family's story, that matters more than anyone's feelings about it. Don't let anyone rewrite your love story just because they promise to give it a happier ending. Some stories aren't meant to be rewritten. They're meant to be continued, with all their messy, complicated, beautiful truth intact. Subscribe for more stories that might save someone you love, stories that reveal the difference between healing and erasure, between love and control. Because sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones who look exactly like saviors, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose your ghosts over someone else's version of your future.